Hi everyone, I am Ratnesh Sharma from iOS team, and today I am going to present a topic on self-defense. So, someone today also asked me why I am wearing this night suit, but let me clarify that that is not a night suit. That's a track, and I'll start with my presentation. So first of all, self-defense is necessary in case you are stuck somewhere, just in case, but you should not cross a very thin line between self-defense, being defensive and being offensive. Key points: quick sudden moves like surprising anyone, your opponent can help you to escape in a situation where you are stuck very badly. The second is target weak and sensitive areas. The weak and sensitive areas can be your knowledge knot, your nose, your neck, as well as your thighs. That is the part between your hips and the knee. Use your environment to your advantage, like nails, pen, keys, which can be helpful in striking very hardly. The fourth point can be escape, and the fifth is gain attention, public attention, so that you can get the emergency help. Note situations are different, followed up some self-defense move, but keep in mind it's a basic point. Practice self-defense with a friend so that you can be perfect in that. Pressure points. Pressure points are the points which offender cannot use frequently. Like he cannot use his nose or his head or his throat while he is fighting. So you can attack that pressure points and help yourself to escape. The impact on the pressure point can create a lot of pain, and it can also make the offender rest for some 5 or 10 minutes so that you can go. Impact on the knowledge knot. The very sensitive part of the body is this knowledge knot. You can hit that part with your knee as well as your closed fist. Anyway, like a hammer or like a straight punch. It can cause him 15 to 16 seconds of rest. Now that is what hit with the closed fist. A blow here from a hard weapon like a stick or something like a iron rod can help you to escape. Now pressure to the ear area. The second pressure point is right behind your ear area, which is this upside your jawbone. A pressure to this part can create watery things in the opponent's eyes, so that you can tell him to be silent and something like that. In the ear, it motivates a person to seize an action. Like if he's in some action of punching or something, you can hold him from this part so that he can seize his action. Whatever thing he's doing, it can be stopped. Upon release of the pressure, the pain goes away immediately. Applied with a hard object such as pencil or knuckles. This knuckles. Pressure under the nose. This pressure is applied. Insert your finger in the nose grill and then pull aside you, so that it can be very painful in your this bone part. Pressure under the jawbone. This part of the thing can also be used. Like if the height of the defender is above the height of an offender, then this can be very useful. While you can pressure your fingers on the jawbone and can be attracted. There is what pressure in the jawbone. Points are located in the jawbone. There are 2 points each on the side of the jawbones, which can be very painful. Now impact on the neck. The neck part can be impacted with your elbow as well as your fist. It can be very dangerous if you hit this part of the neck with your closed fist. That is the impact to the neck. Do not use hard weapon unless you feel seriously bodily injured is justified. A hard enough blow from a blunt object may kill or seriously injure a person. Impact to the thigh. Now, as I said, the part which is above your knee and below your waist, that part is sensitive. You can kick that part and make him injure for some time. Impact to the thigh. Now, used to stop a person who is advancing against you. Use when you are facing an assailant. Assailant is one who is trying to attack you. Impact should be from your shin bone anywhere between the ankle and knee. Note that a weapon could cause seriously bodily injury. This one is the impact on the nose. That was under the nose. This one on the nose using your fist as well as your open palm like this. You can use it as a hammer fist. Striking fingers in eyeballs. Even that is a very effective part, like you are striking your fingers in the opponent's eyeballs. Impact on the eardrum. Same as like the way you are impacting on this part of the pressuring this part of the neck, you can also impact with the angular frequency and create some force so that you can impact on the eardrum. Impact on the throat. This one I told that this part of the throat can be very painful if you attack with a hard weapon or your fist. Now these are some escaping routes which can be used, so that if you are stuck in the opponent's hand or somewhere like a close hug or something like that, you can use these techniques. Escaping from wrist grab, opposite hand. Like I am standing with my right hand and somebody is holding my right hand with his left hand. In that case, make a fist with your hand and turn your palm down, this way, and move towards the right of the offender. This will pry your arm without strength. Like I would like to call someone to voluntarily to come here and I'll demonstrate that. Actually, like holding my hand with the opposite part, that one. If I move towards the outside of his arm, palm up, palm down, this can cause a pain and you can so like I'll be calling you later also. Put your elbow towards the elbow, like always try to move outside the area. Like if he is holding this way, then I should move like this. And if he is holding with the left hand, I should move like this. So you shift your elbow towards his elbow. This will pry your arm out without strength. The second is wrist grab with the same hand, like someone is grabbing your right hand with his right hand. In that case, you need to keep your palm upside and move outside his right hand. The third one is wrist grab, both hands. If someone is holding your both hands with his hands, so That's a move which is also known as Hanuman move. It has been identified from Lord Hanuman, and it is popular in China, Hong Kong, everywhere by the same name. So it's a kind of move where someone is holding your both hands. You need to concentrate on the center line and move your wrist upwards and move. Like I'll have to call Akshay again. The first one with the same hand, like he's holding my right hand with his right hand. In that case, I'll keep my palm up. I'll move to his right. This will again cause his elbow to stretch a lot, so I can be released. And this one, the grabbing with the both hands, it can be done if he is grabbing like this. I should move my center line with this, creating like this. You can move your wrist upside and can be released from the offender. Thank you. Escaping holds from behind. If someone is holding you from behind, blocking your both hands, then there is a technique in judo from which you can escape. I cannot perform it here because we need some mat or what. So like with this thing, you can hold the offender with his to his shoulder and can put him on the floor. The second technique is hitting him with the elbow, and the third is using your knee. You can hit the groin. That's the technique I was talking about. Holding from behind, if it is more difficult, like someone is holding your both the hands from behind with more strength. In that case, you are using this judo technique. That's a kind of a judo technique that you are using, holding your opponent from his shoulder and then putting him on the floor. That's a front bear hug, where the opponent is striking to you with from the front side. In that case, you need to pull him from the hip side, and you need to attack on his groin so that he can release it. Escaping from front choke. That's a technique if someone is holding your neck with both his hands. It's a kind of same thing which can be used when someone is holding the thing with your one hand. Escaping from back choke. Now back choke can be used, escaping from the back choke can be used if you are using your inside leg to move your leg beside the opponent's leg and pressurizing with the transparent hand, like I'll have to call Akshay on the floor. So it was like if he's holding me like this, then that's a horse stand you need to do. And that's the way you can pressure with your right hand, left hand frequently. Like if he's holding with his left hand, then I should turn this way and pressurize him with my opponent hand. Weapon disarm. Use both hands to hold the opponent's hand. That's a kind of technique which has been shown on the picture also. If someone is holding gun or stick, you can use your both hands and pressurize with the thumb. Pressurize with the thumb, and which can make the weapon disarm. I would like to call someone else like Chirag. If he is holding the knife in this way, the thing what I can do, I should not hold this knife or his wrist or this forearm. I should do hold his punch, move it this way. So it can create a lot of pain and it can help the defender to disarm his weapon. And that was all about weapon disarm. The surprising part was the quick return, targeting and striking. That's a kind of overview. Strike with your elbow as far as possible, or with your knee, because these parts of a human bodies are very strong, so you can use as a weapon also. Remember the sensitive areas, like the knowledge knot, the nose, the throat, as well as the thigh. This should buy you time in these situations to escape. Now that's a triangular rule. That's a general attack from a offender, and how to escape from that I'll show you. That's a one hand front choke, angular punch and straight punch. That's a triangle I'd like to call Akshay again. Now the first one is one hand front choke. Now the triangle says anyhow you will be defending yourself some like this or this. You should form this way and attack on the forearm like this. This will create him to bend his forearm and can be helpful. The second one is angular punch. Now while punching you should target on this part, the forearm and the biceps part. You should stop him with the same angle, the same triangle like this. I know that it cannot be perfect, but you can always vary from your target, can vary from forearm to biceps. The third one is straight punch. The straight punch can be redirected using the triangle this way. You should not go this or this. It should be directed from the elbow part. So the one hand front choke, move back and pressure on the forearm. The second is angular punch, move forward and front choke. This move forward, angular punch. Move forward and target this part, the biceps as well as the forearm. And the third is the straight punch. That is redirect. Thank you. Don't forget to use everyday pocket items as a weapon. That is keys, pens, books, cell phones. They can be very useful. Even these days, the government has also, not the Indian government, but the foreign government has also allowed that shocking some devices there with the women, so they can use that also. Use these only in defense of others or yourself. If you are seen using these techniques in any manner other than those stated in the lesson, you may be arrested for assault. Remember these, there is no tolerance for bullying. I would like to show you this video which demonstrates some of the moves like Muay Thai and Hanuman moves. You can see that Hanuman move in this also. So we'll start with the video.
The kick's power comes from the torque generated by the rotation of the hips. It's the same principle that cracks a whip. Turning the hips just a few degrees forces the foot to travel a much greater distance and creates a lot of speed as it does. The longer the leg and quicker the rotation, the faster the kick. And unlike karate, Muay Thai fighters are also taught to strike with the hard bone of the shin. A Muay Thai kick can generate roughly the same force as a baseball bat, enough to crack a rib or a leg.
Basically, it works like a point of a knife. All the force is magnified by being concentrated in a small, hard area. Even if the elbow doesn't deliver a knockout, it will almost always leave a nasty cut and often end the fight. It's not the arms, but the legs that drive our fists. Like a piston, the explosive power of the legs is capable of generating hundreds of pounds of force, all to a very vulnerable area, the soft underside of the opponent's jaw. Like the Hanuman move, the flying knee relies on the explosive power of the legs. But rather than spread the power of our blow over two fists, it concentrates it into the spear point of the knee and combines it with the force of gravity. It's the equivalent of hitting our opponent in the chest with a sledgehammer. The hyperextension of the elbow, created by pulling back on the locked arm, virtually ensures that he will be taken down.
The knee strike to the wrist dislodges the knife and further loads the elbow and shoulder. The technique can easily result in damage to the elbow joint, the tendons of the rotator cuff, or even a broken arm. The key to this move is turning your opponent's lower arm into a lever. By grabbing his arm during the initial attack, you set up the lever such that direct loading to his elbow joint is achieved. Once the elbow is locked and loaded, you can pull a much heavier opponent off balance by simply lowering your center of weight.
With practice, the ninja can hit his intended target from distances as great as 45 feet. At impact, that's more powerful than a Major League Baseball pitch.
This move is more about timing and precision than power. Instead of hacking through the limb, the first strike imparts an injury just a few inches below the elbow. The sword's razor-sharp blade easily slices through the soft tissue of the attacker's arm. This opens up his defense and provides the ninja a clean opportunity to deliver the kill stroke, a powerful shot to the top of his head.
The move works by using your opponent's own body weight against him. The first strike can land at speeds greater than 20 miles per hour and can stun your opponent with the same injury-producing energy as dropping a bowling ball from over 11 feet onto his torso.
By using his arm as a lever in conjunction with the leg sweep, you drive your opponent to the ground. Once he is on the ground, you follow up with a devastating strike to his face.
The secret to the move is wrist control. By rotating your opponent's wrist to the maximum extent of its range of motion, the bones of the wrist lock against the bones of the forearm and make it impossible to bring the strong muscles of the upper arm to bear.
Then, you can pull your opponent off balance and into a potent knee strike. The combined force of the knee strike and your opponent's forward momentum can be as much as 2,000 pounds, enough to dent sheet metal.
The effectiveness of the Pola Kaimao lies not in raw power, but in speed. By relying on your triceps to snap the strikes forward over the elbow, 3 blows can hit in 7/10 of a second. The final impact of the strike to your opponent's face can deliver as much as 175 watts of power, more than enough power to stun him or crush the cartilage of his nose. You then add insult to injury, firing one last shot into one of the most sensitive regions of the body, the groin. Pulling off the move relies on 2 factors. The first is to combine the block and the strike into a single action. This reduces the time your opponent has to respond to just 1/10 of a second.
But the real focus is to aim your strike at the throat. Because as little as 76 pounds of force can collapse the larynx, the strike doesn't need to deliver a lot of force to be deadly. One blow like this and the fight is over.
Thank you all. It was nice meeting you all, and I'd like to thank all of you for listening to me. And that's a very important part we need to learn. I know that in India, it's not being taught very frequently, or in some other places like China or Tokyo. They used to learn this from childhood only. So we should learn this. It's very important. Any questions? Thank you everyone. Nice meeting you.